We're on. What's up, girls?
Hi, how are you?
Hi.
I'm great. I'm good. I'm hormonal today. How are you?
I'm doing good actually. I have the last few weeks I've had as I've sunken into pandemic life and reworked my routines. My energy is coming back and it's feeling really, really, really good.
I love that. So I'm so excited to have you both on here. I just got the chance to have a talk with you guys yesterday and be on your podcast. And I'm super excited about that. But just, as mentioned yesterday, you girls are awesome. I've witnessed the growth of your podcast pretty much since the beginning. I've watched the progression over the years. It's been 3 years now, something like that, right? Luscious Hustle. It's been alive for 3 years.
3 years.
What year is it? And so it's just been so special and beautiful to witness your growth and, really to see your development, but also just to receive the valuable content that you both are creating. Like, it's one thing to have this brand that's growing and it's great, but it's another thing to have a brand that is not just growing beautifully, but is actually creating impact. That's the word I was reaching for. Work with my hormones.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So it's so real. It's like ovulation window. Okay. So I would love, you guys have the coolest backstory. And I think it's something that is really important to get right into. So if you don't mind just bringing our audience up to speed with your friendship, how you guys came together, how you developed your podcast, and where you were in your career lives prior to Luscious Hustle.
Ooh, such a juicy question.
Yeah, where do we
I'm
begin?
to start?
Well,
I know.
the Cole's Notes version is that we have the same last name and we're not related. And our last name Milne is not, it's not a common name. It's like a really old Scottish name. But so Betsy and I are literally two total strangers who connected in an Instagram DM. I guess that would have been 4 years ago now, coming up on 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And we live in two different countries, 3,000 miles apart, 2 time zones apart. We have like very different background. Everything's different. We have completely different upbringings, different backgrounds. She's a projector. I'm a generator. Like our charts are opposite of each other. But we literally connected on an Instagram DM.
What drew you together on Instagram? Like, what was it about each other that you were like, I want to be your friend?
Yeah. So when I originally reached out to Betsy on Instagram. So I, at that time, was building a network marketing business. Betsy was doing health coaching. And I feel like I was pretty early in the game of DMing people. As soon as it was available as a feature on Instagram, I was like, this is genius. They should have had this from the start. And I would always just pop into people's inboxes and say hello, like a human, not like how we all get spam botted constantly now.
Totally.
I just popped into her Instagram. I was like, hey, crazy. You and I have the same last name. That never happens. I love your content. I see that you're a health coach. And it literally just went from there. It went from an Instagram DM to us getting on a phone call. There's a couple DMs back and forth, but then getting on a phone call pretty quickly. Coincidentally, Betsy was a health coach who was actually looking at the product partner that I already worked with. So there was that alignment. But really every time we would get on a call to talk about the product partner or how she was integrating it into her health coaching business, blah, 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 we would just end up talking about business in general. Like, what is happening in the world of online entrepreneurship? What are people doing? What's new? What's interesting? What's exciting? And the more we had those conversations, the more we just wanted to keep having them. And so then Betsy literally came to me. So that would have been spring of 2016. Yeah. And then December 2016, Betsy texted me one day and said, I don't know, this is crazy, but would you want to start a podcast with me? And I was like, yeah, for sure. Sidebar, I wasn't even listening to podcasts then. I didn't listen to podcasts. I had not explored that purple box app on my iPhone yet. We had no idea how to create a podcast. But within 2 weeks, we recorded our first episode mid-December, and we were live on iTunes January 4th, 2017.
Wow. And 2 weeks.
And boom. Yeah. In 2 weeks, which is kind of rare because a lot of people have a hard time getting onto iTunes now just because it's so flooded.
Oh, really? I didn't even know that. Well, remember yesterday in our talk, I told you it took 2 years for me to really formulate my game plan and get super connected. Okay. So I actually want to really pick apart, the podcast piece for a second. I would love to know, why podcasting? What was so special? Where did that resonate with you? And also, that's a big It's actually a big undertaking. Maybe you didn't realize it at the moment, but now you know. I mean, I do. It's like a full show that you have to put so much effort into.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
We
so
certainly did not.
you
To
didn't
answer
know.
that. No. We
Okay,
were
cool.
complete beginner's mindset, no sweet clue what we were getting ourselves into. But we also are like, she and I are both the type of personality that we have in common. We're not quitters.
Yeah.
No, we don't quit. If we start something, we will just keep going for different reasons, but we won't quit.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'll let Betsy dive into why podcast, because I think it ties in very much to like our origin story. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was health coaching, but I was still freelancing in New York. So I had spent 12 years in New York City in fashion, doing the thing that like I dreamed of, right? Like I wanted that Devil Wears Prada experience and going to fashion shows. And I did. I was like the one behind the scenes though. And it was crazy doing manufacturing. And so when I became a health coach, the origin of the podcast really was I was out with my girlfriends in New York City. It was SantaCon. There was like all like a typical New York night in December. And I was listening to my girlfriends talk about like Tinder and dating and Match.com. And all I wanted to do was talk about business. And I wanted to talk about my website platform. And I wanted to talk about like this thing that I was doing and health coaching in general. And none of my friends, like my girlfriends, I love them. They're still like really close, but they just didn't know what to talk about. So I was like, I'd been listening to podcasts, and Laura and I had actually, the day before I went down to the city, because I was living with my parents in Pennsylvania by that point, I had just talked to her, and I was driving home the next day, and I actually had breakfast with a friend of mine, and I was like, I really need a podcast. And he's like, yeah, you should totally do it. And I was like, blogging's just not working for me. Like, I really feel like I need to get content out faster. And he's like, well, do video. And I was like, no. Like, this was like, I was in a very wounded state at that point.
Okay.
And so I picked podcasting, not having a clue what it was. I knew how to do Illustrator. Like I knew a lot of the Adobe products at that point. So I was like, I can figure this out. But when I look back on that first year, like we were Luscious Living Podcast before we rebranded to Luscious Hustle. We weren't building a business and we weren't monetizing at that point. We both just wanted to have conversations with women. And what happened organically for us was we started talking about business, and it turned into like there was a theme, right? Everybody that came on our podcast was a female entrepreneur. Every woman had started from nothing and built her business. And the stories that we found the most interesting were the ones about business. Mind you, at that point in time, Laura was still a nurse and doing network marketing. I was like hell-bent on being a health coach. And Laura just kept saying, like, you need to be a business coach. Like, you just need to be a business coach. And then people started asking us questions. And I had built $1 million accounts from nothing. I had built a brand within the company that I work for. I ran the company for a couple of years. And so it was a very logical progression. But at the beginning, my fears were so big because I felt like I had failed at New York. I felt like I wasn't growing enough. Like, I didn't like sales. I had this whole mindset around bad experiences with old men that told me I wasn't worth anything and being called a stupid little girl in meetings with like major designers. And I took that wounded energy in, but I knew I had this, like, I wanted to talk. I just wanted to talk. And in the beginning, like, we didn't have an editor. I mean, I've basically edited we got an editor like a year ago. I still edit the raw audio before we send it to the editor.
Me too.
And, at the beginning it was 8 hours an episode of editing because I was so slow. I didn't understand. And we said like and so many times. If you had listened to us, you would be like, what are they talking about? Like, we would get to the end, we'd be like, okay, so we got to cut this and this and this. And it wasn't that we were trying to censor our message or anything like that. It was just we had to find our voices. And we did it on a platform that felt safe to me because I wasn't seen. I didn't want anyone looking at me. I didn't want anyone to see my picture. I would never take a selfie. I was very, very much like, I need to be protected. And I figured this was a safe, and none of my friends listened to podcasts. So I was like, I can start a podcast and nobody will give a shit. Nobody will pay attention. So that's how it all started. But I knew it would be a really good platform for us. So,
oh man, that's a powerful story. I mean, I connect with a few pieces in there. I lived in New York for so many years, obviously celebrity makeup artist, like the fashion world, I was in that. And, and then obviously there's a progression here that has taken place for me in the last several years. But, and then the fear part, like being afraid, I think that's so powerful that, you, regardless of what, coming into it wounded and having these fears, you took that step. And it was probably helpful too that you guys were able to join forces and do it together. Would you say?
Oh my God,
totally.
full transparency.
Yeah.
I could not have done it without Laura. And I knew that from day one. I was
same. Yeah, absolutely the same.
We have our own skill set. At the beginning, she could do social media and do all the connecting and do all that stuff. I was so afraid at that point. I could not connect. She's the only person for the first year. She was the only person that I DM'd with. She was the first person to slide into my DMs. Couldn't find her for a couple days. Found her, wrote her back, and then I had to immediately move to email because I was afraid I was going to lose the conversation. But at the beginning,
cute.
Laura had what I didn't have and what I wanted, which was this ability to connect, to show up, to be the generator. And I really, because of my background in fashion and doing operations and being a vice president and running a company, I wanted to do all the back end stuff. I didn't want my face out there. I didn't want to be. Yeah,
I needed someone who had that background because I was I'm a pediatric nurse. I have 2 degrees. I have a science degree in microbiology, and then I have I'm a pediatric nurse, and I was at home with a kid part time, and then working weekend night shifts, and I knew I wanted business excited me, even though I knew nothing about it. And the more I learned about it, the more excited I got. But I really didn't have any of Betsy's expertise. We needed that, and I think listening to Betsy share that part of the story, this is really a lesson. Our original podcasts, again, we weren't trying to censor ourselves. We've always prided ourselves on being uber transparent. We have shared about my divorce. We have shared about Betsy's rape and past traumas. We have shared about depression. We have shared about her being a caregiver to her dad. There is nothing that we haven't shared on the podcast. And that's the thing that makes it special. And also if you went back to the very beginning and listened to all of the podcasts, it is literally a in real time lesson on how to start when you have nothing, how to start when you are broke, how to start when you are stressed, how to start when you are having panic attacks on a daily basis, how to start when you are crippled by fear, how to start. You think that you can't start. You think ready is a lie. It's a lie. You have to get started, even as basic and crappy as you might think that you are in the beginning, and you just keep going and you don't quit, and you trust that you will get better and better and better, and you will find your voice, and then you will be ready to be seen, and then you will start showing up, and then you will make connections. And that's what we did the whole first year of the podcast. I mean, we knew nobody in the online space. We had 0 followers, but I just started messaging people on Instagram, be like, hey, I love your content. Want to be a guest on my podcast? And amazing people would say yes to us. And I'd be like, oh, fuck, I can't believe they just said yes. Now we actually have to have a conversation with this woman who's a total baller. And I'm super nervous. But we just kept doing it. And then after that, at the end of that first year, we launched our first program, which was Luscious Hustle Academy. And that was literally to teach women how to do what we had just done. You feel that you have all these strikes against you. You feel that you have all these things holding you back. And yet you have this spark of an idea inside of you that piece of you knows you're meant for more. There's that bigger vision of what your life could be, of the business you could have, of being your own boss, of making the kind of money you dream of. And how do you do that? How? And that's good. What we taught. That's what we did. It's just you can start from feeling like nothing and grow into feeling like your highest self.
Yeah, and I want to validate you because in a few ways. Number one, being one of the early listeners to your podcast, I can so back up that I have felt, and that's what I was saying in the beginning of the conversation, or trying to. I have felt your progression, literally. And when I say progression, I don't mean just even visual branding and your intro. I like all that stuff. I mean literally your voice. I've heard the development of your confidence, the clarity in your messaging, all of it.
Look at myself as an example. Because we had this conversation with a client the other day. I mean, I drive the oldest vehicle of anyone I know. I am closing in on 400,000 kilometers. No joke. And it's any day now. Her name's Heidi. Any day now, she's just going to die. She's just going to die, and it's going to happen. And now I could get a new vehicle now, but I just kind of keep driving her because I want to see if actually we'll cross the 400K milestone. But I mean, I made a conscious choice. I was working all those night shifts as a nurse still, and I had a little baby at home, and then we were juggling building the podcast and building the brand. And like, where did all that money go that I made? I put it into me, and I put it into the business. I spent money on coaches. I spent money on programs. I spent money on a therapist. I spent money on, like, that's where I spent my money to hone myself and craft this new identity and this new skill set. So and it's, again, no judgment on anyone. If you want to go out and buy the new car, go buy the new car if that feels in alignment to you. But know that, like, you know, I knew I couldn't do everything at once. And so I chose what was most important to me. That felt aligned. Because the more I spent money and the more I grew myself and invested in myself, the more I could feel it making an impact in the people around me and making an impact on my daughter. And so I just kept pulling that thread, and I just kept pulling it and pulling it, pulling it. And like, I didn't really care that I was the oldest car on the block. I think I still do. That's okay. I just made that choice. I made that conscious choice, and I was okay with being like that chick with the really old car, whatever.
Well, you had a stronger purpose. I think passion and purpose are two separate things, in my opinion. And like, passion is like the spark, the fire. Purpose is what gets you through the mission, the highs, the lows, like, it gets you through the most, you know, challenging moments. When you have a strong why, a strong purpose, like, it in my life too, you know, the great example, it's like, I love Rocky. It's like, take a punch, boom, get back up. It's the purpose that gets you back up. And I will tell you that, you know, every punch I take and I get back up, I'm stronger, I'm better for it, you know? So, and I'm sure you can say the same in your own experience, in your own journey. You know, this obviously has not been some linear, easy, as cosmic and as rad as this whole connection has been for you guys, you know, and like the pieces coming together. I mean, what about some of the moments along the way to where you are now that have felt like, shit, like, this is hard? Like,
we've had so many of those moments. Like, I mean, honestly, we could just like write a book on those moments. But I think you're hitting the nail on the head, right? We want to go from point A to point B. We want it to be linear. Why is it that every single HuffPost article is like 3 steps to XYZ, 3 steps to do? And then people get upset because the 3 steps didn't work for everybody. Like, it works for Susie over here, but if I try it, it goes sideways. And I think that understanding that, you know, especially being a female entrepreneur, nothing is linear. Everything is cyclical. It's why we introduce the moon into our business. It's why we do the soul work in conjunction with the strategy. I can talk strategy until the cows come home. I've built multiple businesses, $1 million accounts. I've taken every business course under the sun. Like, I have an MBA in life, right? But that doesn't mean that if I teach that strategy, it's going to land, because we know your limiting beliefs are what define your business. And if you're coming in with baggage, you're going to exit out with baggage, probably more baggage, because it's not going to work if you don't start digging in there. And, you know, the biggest thing that I see people struggling with right now, it's like they have all this time in the world. And so they're trying to fill the time, like, just like, keep going, keep going, keep going. And I would say, if you're listening to this and you're like filling your time, but not seeing results, it's time to take a step back. It's time to start really looking at what you're doing and not being judgmental, like compassion, ladies. Be compassionate with yourself and the work that you're doing, to see that just because somebody else it worked for somebody else doesn't mean it has to work for you, or it's going to work for you. The strategy is the same, but your story is different. We're all unique. Everyone's going through coronavirus, but everyone's experience is different. It's the same thing in business. And I think that kind of having that mindset levels the playing field, because it allows you to show up fully. It allows you to take action without judgment, and it allows you to do the work that you do. You're right. Your passion's what gets you in the ring. Your purpose is what keeps you getting up every day and stepping back in. Like,
it's so,
it is.
That's so well said. I really want to talk to you girls, because I love that you integrate this, and it's always a big part of your conversation. And we spoke about this a little bit yesterday, but I want to touch on the masculine, feminine energy. So like, when you say to me, or to all of us, take a step back, my mind registers, let your feminine energy just come forward right now. Like, the masculine for me in my life, right? And again, like, it's not like I've read on this and I know all the things. It's the logical thinking. It's the, you know, decision-making process, the critical thinking. It's that, part of being an entrepreneur. And it's very much, it's a part of my everyday life. Whereas like for me, my feminine energy is when I'm more in the receiving mode, I'm more open, I'm light, my imagination is at the center stage of everything, creativity. Oh, it's so important to have both. I love that you both integrate this into your business, into your brand, everything. So can you just kind of touch on that and maybe like bring out the moon piece to your business? Because that's so cool and unique.
Well, thank you. I think the thing that people need to understand about masculine and feminine energy, it starts with nurture versus nature. So we all naturally embody both. We have masculine and feminine energy, and how we are raised and where we are raised and who raises us. So like you mentioned on our podcast yesterday, you had younger brothers. So you were constantly surrounded by that, but you had a very feminine mom. Mm-hmm. Who is like the embodiment of like gorgeousness and lusciousness and all these things. Goddess, right? I had a mom who let my brother cry, but didn't let me cry. I was raised very much in my masculine energy. I was going to the Olympics. I was training. I was doing all the things. I was beating the boys, right? And so I think nurture, how we are nurtured, defines how we show up as we grow older. I picked a very competitive career. Fashion is no joke. Right? It's all women, but like fucking cutthroat. And so I think for me, like understanding masculine and feminine energy, and Laura can dig into this a little bit more, like what that looks like. I think understanding that you are nurtured one way, but that doesn't mean it's your nature. And then that's where like the quote unquote work comes in to start letting your natural tendencies come forward. And I think the women who I know, Laura, myself, we've all had to heal both our wounded feminine energy and our wounded masculine energy to step fully into being in our divine energies and being able to show up like fully. And they support each other, I think, completely.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. I frame it, it's they're in a romance together in my life. It's an actual dance. When I'm sprinting through the airport because I'm about to miss my flight, that's my masculine energy. Like, baby, hold on. Like, I got to get us there. And she's like, all right. She's like, all right, and then when like, he's just tired from all the work and all the decision-making and all that, she's like, chill out for a second. Let me just take over. And that is literally like how I function on a day-to-day basis. But I would love to hear your thoughts on this.
Well, I think a great example of where like the masculine and feminine comes into play and can go sideways is really in the sales process. So if you think about that nurture versus nature, a lot of how our society has nurtured the sales process is very much in the wounded masculine. So there's like divine masculine, divine feminine, wounded masculine, wounded feminine. The wounded masculine is Wolf of Wall Street. Pushy, salesy, sleazy, cutthroat. It's all about me. It's what I want. Got to get the money. And we've all, as women, experienced being sold to that way. And it feels like shit. And so I think what happens is women experience that. They get into business. They know they want to make money. They're very ambitious and they're very smart. And okay, so I want to make a sale. But then they've also been sold to in the worst way possible. They don't want to come across as sleazy or icky or salesy or pushy. So they swing. The pendulum swings from the wounded masculine into the wounded feminine, unfortunately. And the wounded feminine, she is weak. She's weak. She's passive aggressive. She doesn't have any boundaries. She gives and gives and gives way too much and doesn't ask for enough in return. The divine feminine is about receiving. She knows how to ask for what she wants and receive it back. But when you're in your wounded feminine, that's where you have health coaches who are charging $200 a month for a program that should be $2,000. And then they get burnt out and their clients aren't getting results and they can't figure out why. And then they feel like they're spinning their wheels. Like that's what happens there. So it's identifying like, okay, I was trying to avoid the masculine energy, but it was the wrong kind. I didn't understand. I was trying to avoid the wrong kind of masculine energy. So I swung over to the wounded feminine. So what we have to do is heal both sides. So you can step into, like Betsy said, being in your divine feminine where you are nurturing, you're receptive, you're able to ask for what you want, but you have strong boundaries. So you're not going to give too much and become burnt out. Because women we've all done it. We've all been super passive aggressive. Why do we do that? Because we're burnt out and we don't feel seen and heard and supported.
Mhm.
So you're that coach or that person, that boss. And then you also have the divine masculine, which is very linear thinking and very strong and is a leader. And it's like that grounding. It's like the mountain. The divine masculine is the mountain. The divine feminine is the plants, the flowers, the water, the wind, the animals that live on the mountain. You have to have both.
That's
And
beautiful.
so once women we can get that piece to click in their heads, and then we teach our sales process, like then it all comes together really, really quickly. And all of a sudden sales isn't about that old wounded Wolf of Wall Street bullshit. It's not even, it's like a completely other world. It's this world where I get to show up and be me and be completely authentic. And I get to ask you and be a really good active listener. What are your problems? Oh, great. You have those problems. I know those problems. I've had them before. I hear you. This is what worked for me. I can solve that problem for you. And then it's just a relationship. It's an interaction that's happening. And now we're solving problems in the world and we're making an impact for somebody, and we're in our feminine. So we're receiving money, and it all feels very in flow and in balance. It's just understanding what quadrant of energy am I in right now? Am I wounded feminine or am I wounded masculine, divine feminine? Where am I?
And this is something that you integrate into your coaching, into your programs. This is like a natural part of what you guys
it's
do.
Like it's the undercurrent of like every conversation, whether it's like our private coaching clients, whether it's our Moon Goddess program, Soulful Sales Accelerator, our new aligned influencer program, right? Like Luscious Hustle. Luscious is the divine feminine. Hustle is the divine masculine. So that hustle is the strategy that we know and can teach. But the luscious is like, is this in alignment? What energy quadrant are we in today? And what do we need to do to get into the right one?
FYI, that is such a good name. I love the word luscious, and
Thank you.
love the word hustle. It's like, it's so good. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah. And why not have it be both? I mean, it's like, so you put those two energies together and it's just magnetism. It's magnetic, it's a force. I love that. What's up with your moon program? I want to hear about that more.
So my nickname growing up was Betsy Moon. I was born under a full moon, and like legend has it that, it was like hanging in the sky when Betsy came in, and then I had this bald head until I was 2. So I was always called Betsy Moon. When I was 18, I got my first moon tattoo, right? Like my first tattoo, it happened to be a moon. Thank God, because I was going to get a dead bear. And if I'd gotten that, my mother probably would have disowned me. It was the 90s. What can I say?
Yeah.
And I saw a lot of dead shows that year. Anyway, it's fine. But I was made fun of, like as a kid, like Betsy Moon, like my friends, I was teased about it. So long story short, when 2 years ago now, I guess it was, I had a panic attack actually speaking in front of a group of women in a mastermind that I paid a lot of money to be in. Laura wasn't there that day. I had a panic attack. I had a flashback because I have PTSD from my rape. And it was one of those things with like there was something going on with the moon that day. And I just was like, you know what? I'm going to follow this energy cycle with the moon and see if I can heal this trauma, because I have this vision of my life and what I want it to be. Right now, I physically can't do what I want to do. So like, can I use the energy of the moon to help me do this? And so the way the moon works, it's a 28-day lunar cycle. So it lines up with your hormones. Like women's cycles are on a 28-day energy cycle. Men are on a 24-hour energy cycle. The world is built around a 24-hour energy cycle, right? Mm-hmm. And so there's the full moon and the new moon. So new moons, you set intentions, full moons, you release. So I decided that this was like in August, I guess. And I decided that I was going to use the moon and I was going to start releasing these stories that were holding me back and really just get in there and like work on my shadow side. And what happened is I started playing with the energy of each phase. So each phase has its own masculine or feminine energy. And at that point I was hustling really hard, which is why I wasn't healing. So even though we had this gorgeous brand, Luscious Hustle, and like, yes, my life felt luscious and we were paying each other and I was working full time in the business, there was still too much masculine energy in, and I wasn't honoring the energy cycle inside me. So fast forward a couple months and I was like, you know what? I really want to do this in our business. Can we just apply these principles in the business? Like masculine days, feminine days, what will that look like? No joke. We went from like barely hitting 5K months to immediately doubling that to have our first 10K months. The next month we had a 15K month. And ever since then, it's basically been the same thing, like 15K, 20K, like it's just solid. And the thing that we learned and how we launched Moon Goddess was just, if you can align your energy with the work that you're doing, it stops feeling like you're forcing. It starts feeling like you're receiving. And like, what does the divine feminine want to do? She wants to be seen, heard, witnessed, felt, supported so she can receive. And it's just a framework for us on how we show up in the world. So it doesn't mean like I don't have a moon calendar on my wall, but I do on my wrist. But you just know, like on certain phases, you just kind of know, you like wake up and you're like, oh, it's wax and gibbous, isn't it? And then you like look and you're like, oh yeah, okay. This is why I'm in this creative flow today. This is why I want to do the work that I want to do. And the cool thing about the moon is it is feminine energy all the time. Like sun is masculine energy, moon is feminine energy. The moon, if you know your moon sign, it rules your emotions and how you show up. It's like the secret side that you don't want to show to the world, right? And when we understand that, I was told so many times in business, oh, you're too emotional for this. You'll never succeed because you're so emotional. I'm an empath. I'm like, of course I'm emotional. I'm intuitive. Like, what else am I going to be? I feel everybody else's feelings in the room. But having the moon as that structure and that framework, it allowed me to heal those stories. It allowed us to align in our business, and it allowed us to start receiving a lot more in alignment, which just made our business blow up. So that's why we teach Moon Goddess, because it's a very simple framework to start creating wealth in your business. And
I love it.
Very exciting.
And it's empowering because I think it really does help your women become more connected to themselves ultimately. I think
absolutely.
Like, when I hear it, you can hear things like moon and the crystals and all. And listen, there's crystals behind me. I don't know if you can see it. Like, I love it. I don't have a moon calendar. I kind of want one, but I will tell you, you can see the ocean. My backyard's the beach. When the harvest moon, when the moon is full, girls, I wake up, it's dark. I wake up early. I sleep early. I have my whole morning routine, which I actually want to ask you guys about, more of a morning ritual. The moon, it's like we're flirting. I can't even help it. Like, she's just like, hey, I'm like, hey girl, it's so special to feel. And so I do feel like that connection to, and sun has its own thing too, but the other piece to this is that I feel, when we think about hormones, like right out the gate, I'm like, I'm hormonal today. I can feel it, like the energy from yesterday to today, without even knowing where I am on my calendar. I can feel yesterday was more masculine. Like there was more of that energy, this fiery energy, where today I'm just like, ah. And it's not like a weaker day. It's not a sad day. It's just more of a day where I just want to I don't know. I wonder what the moon's doing right now. Like, tell me.
Well, it's actually in masculine energy right now, but I think the lesson here to learn, and this is why we teach what we teach, it's that there is this ebb and flow, and that we have to give ourselves the space to have those creative downloads, to get those divine downloads. And like, the moon is great because it's a beacon in the sky, but think about it, it reflects blue light back to the earth. That's why people are more energized during full moons, right? Because we're not able to sink into this circadian rhythm. People typically sleep a lot longer during the new moon or the crescent phases because it's darker in the sky, less blue light. And for us, and for me in particular, because I'm a full moon baby and I'm like really in tune with the moon. Laura used to put it in the calendar, like, don't fuck with Betsy on these days, because I was like all over the place. But I think understanding that there is space, and when we slowed down on those feminine days and gave ourselves the space to have the creative moments, that's when our business changed. That's when we were able to really expand and start scaling. And it was like a breath of fresh air. So just, honor your body. Like, we're taught we have to go to work Monday through Friday. We have the luxury of not having to worry about that right now. So, everybody should have that space. So.
Well, you have created the luxury, and you are supporting so many women to do the same in their lives. And that's a good, kind of segue into, so the programs that you have right now, Soulful Sales Accelerator, that has not launched yet, or is that in motion? Or can we talk about that? Because I want to get women to your programs, because you guys know your shit, and it's time.
So Soulful Sales Accelerator we launched last month, so we're rolling through that right now. So there'll be like a waiting list for the next, probably for the next round. Right now we're launching Aligned Influencer. We're just getting started with that. Actually, today is our first call, so that's really exciting. And that's going to be a 6-month program, and it's going to be rolling enrollment. So there's always going to be this community for Aligned Influencers to step in and start like sinking into that energy, building themselves up as leaders, figuring out their offerings and their mission and what they're doing with their business in the world. So so really Aligned Influencer right now is where we're getting excited.
I love it. Okay. And then the moon goddess program, is that just always?
No, the Moon Goddess program right now, I don't know when we're going to relaunch it. We just finished up around like a couple weeks ago, and it was incredible. And I think, come summer, I think we'll probably do another round. But if you go to luscioushustle.com, you can find all the programs, places, spaces. We do one-to-one coaching, and we do all of the work that we've talked about on this, like the soulful sales, the Moon Goddess, like it's all integrated into our one-to-one coaching. And then it's really specific to people's businesses. And that's where we get to go accelerate growth really fast.
I love it. And I love, one thing that I want to add about the whole soulful sale, money is energy, and it's such a sticky subject that people the emotions around money are so interesting. But when you can reframe those emotions and really understand money from a different value point, I think, and I know that that's what you girls do with your programs. I think that that's a huge pivotal point for a lot of, entrepreneurs. Just humans, period, because money is such a part of all of our lives, right? So I love that that's a piece to your, to your business and to your conversation, to everything.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me ask you this. If you could give some women advice right now who are thinking about, they're in COVID quarantine. They're like, well, I've always wanted to try this, but I don't know. Maybe I want to start a podcast, brand, whatever the business is, but they're afraid, they're hesitating. Like, what is one piece of advice that you can offer these women who feel the passion, feel the spark, but are hesitating?
Oh, easy. Just do it. Like literally, like I'm like a Nike ad.
I was going to say, just start.
Yeah.
Someone posted this on a Facebook group the other day about like, I'm 30 years old and I'm leaving my job and moving across the country and I have to restart my whole life. And I'm, scared. Like, what do I do? And I get that. Like, I left a marriage and I restarted my life completely last year. And it's like, you just start. You just start one freaking step at a time. And you think it's going to be like Dorothy following the Yellow Brick Road to Oz. It's not. It's like Frodo taking the freaking ring to Mordor. It's going to be horrific. You will be scared. It will be terrifying. You will die. Feel like you're going to die sometimes. And like, what will get you through it is your friends. And if you don't have friends, you're going to have to find friends. Frodo didn't have all the friends that he started with. By the time he gets to Mordor, he's got a lot more friends on board than he did when he started. And he was scared. And he did almost die. And he was kind of a pansy sometimes, but he had a true heart. And he knew what was the right thing to do, and so he just fucking did it.
Yeah, fuck yeah, DM your friends, man.
So you just have to lean on your friends and trust that you're going to get through like the
I
battles.
love it, dude. That's such a great illustration. Okay, wait, morning rituals, because and this is just part of how I've operated for years now, but I will say that having this, I prefer ritual over routine because routine is just so boring to me. But, it's something that really helps set the tone for the rest of my day. I would love to know, what is your morning like? Like, do you guys have a ritual? Do you meditate? Do you journal? Things that really help to prime you and fortify you throughout your day.
So full transparency, not really. I need as much space as possible in the morning. Like, I don't really do anything before 10 a.m. if I can avoid it. Like, I walk my dog, I have coffee, I don't watch the news. But honestly, like, I could get up at 4 or 5 o'clock and like not do anything till 10 a.m. And I need that space to just be right now. I used to get up and read for 20 minutes every day. I had a journaling practice I think it just goes in seasons. And right now my season is just stillness and space. I really needed the space. So for me, it's just like create as much space as I possibly can. Nobody's in the room with me. Don't talk to me. If I can avoid you, I'm going to do that. Like that's really where I've been. That's my morning ritual.
That is so bad. I have to highlight that for a second because no, it's so important, girls, because what I love is, by the way, my journaling, I've been writing my whole life. It's not like, oh, this is my morning pages. It's like Roxanne has to write. It's not a chore or a thing. It's like part of but honestly, why I love it so much is because I think sometimes you hear morning routine, success, all the things like be productive before 9 a.m. It's like, no, sometimes I'm just literally staring at the fucking moon on my couch. I love meditation because it's the pathway to my highest self. I have a relationship with my future self. Her name is the woman in the mirror. It's a whole story. And we communicate every morning in meditation. So it's a very sacred space for me. And then, the journaling, but it's not this like I'm being productive. And I think it's so important because that's my process and my, routine and practice that makes me feel very fortified. But in that is also this space where it's like, sometimes I just want to fucking daydream. Like, I just want to sit and just let my mind wander. And so I'm the same way. It's like, there's no texting, no emails, no talking, nothing like that. And I think a lot of times people can hear this morning routine business and feel pressured, like they need to just be doing this whole thing. But I love that you're like, actually, I'm not fucking doing shit. Which to me is doing something that you're honoring your space, the space in here, the space in here, the space out here. And that is your method to empower you, to fortify you, to strengthen you, to have a great fucking day to the best of your ability. I love that.
Yeah. Like my room has to be clean, like it's not, but I think that that's something to recognize though. Like, like what do your spaces feel like? And I love to write, but I don't write in a journal. I talk. That's why we have a podcast. Like I am a projector. I need to project. And so for me, also saving my voice is like really important. I need it to be in the zone. So that's me. I know Laura has a very different morning routine. She's so good. I love it. I used to idolize her 5 a.m. club, but that's not me. Never will be. Too many 5 a.m. swim practices. I don't need to do that in my adult life. No.
You're like traumatized.
I am.
It can be hard. I mean, it's all about when you go to bed, right? Let's hear it. Laura, are you still 5 a.m. club?
I haven't been 5 a.m. clubbing for pandemic, just because I'm home with the kid. And so I'm kind of doing the same thing as Betsy. I'm just letting us have space and, have breakfast with my kid and do some coloring and go for a walk. And like, I'm just letting it be easy, honestly, right now. And it feels pretty good.
I think that's beautiful though, because I think the idea in my mind, do whatever you need to do in that moment. But the idea is to be self-connecting. Like that's to me, number one, whatever that looks like, playing with your dog, playing with your kid, meditating with future self. It's all about allowing yourself to come together with this being that is you in a very easy, harmonious way. It's like versus I got to get up and now you're just like chasing your ass all day, or your day is chasing your ass. Like, but you know what I mean? That just doesn't feel good. Yeah. Well, I'd love that you guys create space like that, for yourselves. I think that's so important. And I think that does support your ability to be as badass as you both are in your businesses. So moving into, all my episodes, my new guests, I like to do these rapid fire words, and what they are, they're rapid from me, but your answers don't need to be rapid coming back. But essentially, I just want to know what comes top of mind, top of heart to you when you hear these words.
Go for it. This is my favorite game, by the way.
The competitive one is like, let's do this. Okay, ready? Love.
Oh, fear.
Fear is the next word.
Well, you know what? Okay. So interestingly, I've been spending a lot of time in the Course in Miracles. And so, the opposite of love is fear. And so for me, it's like the two of them go hand in hand. When I feel fear, I want to lean into love. And I have this old programming that I'm working through right now, is the things that I love, are they going to disappear on me, or what are they going to look like? I think that's a direct correlation to losing my dad in the last couple of weeks and having him home on hospice. But that process of like releasing and what does that look like and grieving, it all sort of is kind of hand in hand for me in this moment. And so, yeah, I think of love and fear sort of interchangeably, because I want fear to be trumped by love. And so I try to live my life that love is trumping everything else in this moment.
Beautiful. It's
Thank
powerful.
you.
Yeah, I love it. Well, so then that kind of packages love and fear.
Yeah.
So perfect. Passion.
Passion gets me out of bed and gets me started. Honestly, the things that I'm passionate about are the things that you couldn't hold me back if you tried. And so I think leaning into the things that you're passionate about and honoring what you're passionate about is what's going to propel you forward in life and keep life interesting, right? If you're not following your passions, are you really living? Let's be real.
I don't think so. I agree with you. I love it.
Yeah.
Courage.
Ooh, I love courage. I think courage allows us to show up in those moments when we would otherwise like to go run and hide in the corner. And I think vulnerability and courage, Brené Brown, they go hand in hand. You can't have courage without vulnerability. And it's our responsibility, I believe, to ourselves to really embrace the vulnerability so that we can show up and be courageous and be leaders and help other people.
Perfect. I love that. It's so good. Authenticity.
Oh, this word used to drive me insane. Oh my God. Because I believe that we are all authentic. I think authenticity starts with integrity. And so many people are pushing authenticity online, but they're not in integrity with the work that they're doing. So for me, how do I know if I'm being authentic? Is this in integrity with my big vision, with my highest self, with the mission and the purpose that we're putting out into the world? And you have to have passion, I think, lighting the fire of integrity to move yourself forward in alignment.
Boom. That was like, I'm giving you a knuckles. That was a good one.
Thanks.
Okay. Curiosity.
Oh my God. Curiosity is another one of my favorite words. I went to art school. So for me, curiosity, play, imagination, creativity, the whole process of it, I mean, to me, that's just a divine gift that we all have. When people tell me that they're not curious or they're not creatives, I challenge them left, right, and center, because I believe that we all have that innately inside us. That's our divine feminine. And so just being curious, asking questions, creating that beginner's mindset for yourself, even when you know what's going to happen next, leaning in with curiosity, because there's always a different path. There's always a different way to do something. That's really what elevates people quickly in life and in business.
So brilliant, girl. All right. Are you ready for your last one?
Sure.
This is one of my favorite words. I mean, I love all of them. Obviously, that's why they're here. Resilience.
Oh, resilience. Just get back up. Right? There's no such thing. I used to think that, failure was not an option. Like, again, like I wanted to go to the Olympics and I was a swimmer. And so like failure was never really an option for me. I think by having that mindset for such a long time, I really kept myself from growing and showing back up. So like, to me, resiliency and just being able to do things is understanding failure is part of the process. There's no such thing as failure. In life, it is an opportunity for you to learn. It's an opportunity for you to grow. It's an opportunity for you to shine, even when it doesn't feel like it in the moment. That to me is resiliency. It's just understanding it's all happening for you. It's not happening to you.
I love it, girl. By the way, you two are my first duo host podcast. I know, it's so cool. Thank you so much. I loved every minute with you. Oh my God, such a pleasure, such an honor, between yesterday and today. Why don't you go ahead and drop where you guys could be found? But obviously everything is in the show notes, but just direct people right now, because I know they're waiting. Like,
of course. Okay. So you can find us online at www.luscioushustle.com, and we hang out on social. We're on Facebook, but the best place to hit us up is on Instagram. So we are at luscious.hustle on Instagram. If you DM us, it's 99% of the time, it's actually Laura who's going to be responding. I get in there very rarely, but you can see all our Insta stories, what's happening behind the scenes. You can learn all about our programs. And, we have the podcast, which is on iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, all the places and spaces. And that is the Luscious Hustle podcast.
Yeah, it is. All right, girl. Thank you so much. I'm
Thank
so
you so much for
excited.
having us. I'm so sorry Larry had to jump off early, but we love
Oh,
you and this
don't
has just
worry.
been so much fun.
Oh my God, I love you too. Let me get us out of here. You guys, thank you so much. Catch you on the next one.